On Connect Africa on the JoyNews channel tonight, there are concerns emerging over Africa's health sovereignty as the World Health Organization is projecting that global health aid could suffer a major decline by up to 40% this year.
WHO's latest analysis, health aid is projected to decline by up to 40% this year compared to just 2 years ago.
We must reject the outdated notion that health drains our economies. In truth, health is the engine of productivity and bedrock of inclusive growth.
And stay with us tonight as we explore the alternatives with the newly appointed Regional Director for the World Health Organization for the Africa region, Professor Mohamed Yakub Janabi, who is also attending the Africa Health Sovereignty Summit. But first, though, here's a wrap of some of the major stories making the headlines across Africa.
Members of Nigeria's national female basketball team are to receive a cash reward of $100,000 each following their victory at the FIBA Women's Afro Basketball Championship over the weekend in Ivory Coast. At a special reception held in honor of the team, known as the Tigress, Vice President Kazim Shettima also promised each player a 3-bedroom flat. Nigeria defeated Mali 78-64 on Sunday to win their 7th Afro basketball title, which also secured them a spot at next year's FIBA's Women World Cup. A similar bonus was promised to the national female football team, the Super Falcons, last month after they won the recent Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Members of the Tigress coaching and technical crew were also promised $50,000 each and a flat during the reception at the State House in the capital, Abuja. Quote, Nigerian women have never failed this nation in sports, from the Super Falcons standing tall on the world stage to athletes breaking records on the track and the Tigress building a basketball dynasty. Our women have consistently made us proud, end quote, President Bola Tinubu said in a statement.
From Nigeria, we're back here in Ghana, where the World Health Organization is warning that global health aid is projected to decline by up to 40% this year, a big drop that threatens progress in health services worldwide. Speaking at the Africa Health Sovereignty Summit here in Accra, hosted by the government of Ghana, Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, called for a new initiative that will aim at securing sustainable funding available for countries in a bid to meet some critical health needs.
As you all know, sudden and steep cuts to aid are now causing the most severe disruptions to health systems since the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to WHO's latest analysis, health aid is projected to decline by up to 40% this year compared to just 2 years ago. This is not a gradual shift, it's a cliff edge. Life-saving medicines are sitting in warehouses, health workers are losing jobs, clinics are closing, and millions are missing care. We must all adjust to this new reality. But in this crisis lies an opportunity to shake off the yoke of aid dependency and embrace a new era of sovereignty, self-reliance, and solidarity.
Well, the warning there from the World Health Organization, but clear implications for countries such as Ghana. Earlier this year, President John Dramani Mahama had directed the Minister for Finance, Dr. Kezia Tufosin, and also the Health Minister to take immediate steps that will address the significant funding gap, the cut, for instance, from the United States US aid. Take a look at the total amount. 156 million United States dollars was what was at stake for the country, with some portions, including the aspect on health, which was ranging all throughout to some 78.2 million United States dollars as some portion of the amount going in for health. But all of this is now at stake. Some of which, of course, the U.S. government is indicating will remain as a result of their likely impacts on livelihoods, except to say that some of the funding arrangements will be, of course, reworked per the directive by U.S. President Donald Trump. Touching on all of these issues of the funding at the Health Sovereignty Summit here in Accra, President John Dramani Mahama is giving indications that he is committed to the creation of a presidential high-level task force to work with leaders across Africa and the world to tackle this issue. He's also been committing to a new initiative called the Sustain Initiative.
Health is wealth, and we must reframe the economics of well-being. We must reject the outdated notion that health drains our economies. In truth, health is the engine of productivity and bedrock of inclusive growth. We must therefore urge our ministers of finance to treat health as a capital investment, to encourage sovereign wealth funds to allocate resources to biotech, to diagnostics, and resilient infrastructure. And what are the new commitments? Today, I'm pleased to announce two significant commitments. The first is the Presidential High-Level Task Force on Global Health Governance. This will be a convening platform to engage global and continental partners to redesign the health governance systems for the world we live in now, not the world of yesterday. The second will be the launch of the Sustain Initiative, and this means scaling up sovereign transitions and institutional networks. This is a bold African-led platform that will align our national budgets with our health priorities, will mobilize sovereign, diaspora, and philanthropic capital into our health systems. It will foster cross-border learning, innovation, and accountability. And I extend an open invitation to all nations represented here to join us in building an African health investment ecosystem that is driven by purpose and is powered by equity and anchored in our sovereignty.
President John Dramani Mahama there. So the question is, in the wake of these financial cuts in terms of aid, how can Africa effectively secure a lifeline to address all of these critical health needs? Well, I've been engaging the newly appointed Regional Director for the World Health Organization Africa Region, Professor Mohamed Yakub Janabi, who is also attending this week's Africa Health Sovereignty Summit. Thank you for talking to JoyNews, and we say Akwaba, our way of welcome here in Accra. How is it like for you, joining thousands and scores of actors across the African continent for the Africa Health Sovereignty Summit here in Accra?
Let me start first to say, blessed your news media, Joy. It's very important for us. When I say us, I'm talking about WHO Afro, which we have 47 member states, as you know. So what is today, actually? Today it marks a turning point for Africa, health sovereignty. The Accra Compact, to me, is just not a declaration. It's a strategy. Is a statement that it has come, it's high time for Africa to take its own ownership of its health. Because the difficult truth is our health system for decades and decades has been relying on donations. So I think it's a high time now to be on the driver's seat.
Right. And allow me to also say congratulations to you because you're taking up this new role as the WHO Regional Director for Africa. That is happening just this year. So I believe you have your own vision for the continent, which we would explore shortly. Before we get into it, I just want to quote perhaps one of your words back to you when you took up this post. You expressed thanks for the trust that was reposed in you. And then you indicated that you would not, quote, let Africa down. How is that feeding into your vision for the WHO Africa region?
Oh, thank you, Blessed. When I said that, I really meant it. Meant it in the sense, you know, my vision was a healthier Africa, a more resilient healthcare system. And it came as a coincidence on my side. It came, we all know, the beginning of this year, what happened to our financial situation. Our big donors pulled out. So to me, it was two things. Either we sit down and cry, or we take it as an opportunity for our continent to take charge of our health. So in order to do that, you need a very resilient health care system. You need to invest on primary health care. You need to come up with innovative financing. And when I say innovative, not only innovative, but innovative domestic financing. Right. We have to look on our climate. We have issues with antimicrobial resistance. We have issue with local manufacturing. As you know, over 90% of our medicine and medical products, we import them. We have to be more ready with outbreaks because, as you know, I'll just give you an example of 2024. Yeah. We had 109 outbreaks in Africa. Yeah. So that preparedness, how to combat all this, it's a very crucial to me. So once we achieve this, it means we are going to be more reliant, and that's why today being here with Accra Code, with Sustained Initiative and Sovereignty is exactly what I touched in my vision and the priorities which I've just mentioned.
So let's get in a bit more into the priorities, because all of these challenges that you identify will obviously militate against your broad vision of improving universal health coverage across Africa. I was taking a look at the figure before our interview, and it appears to me that Africa is doing below 50% in terms of our UHC. How then is that determining your priorities now? And clearly, how is it spelled like for you in terms of your priorities as to your immediate targets, short-term ones, and what will happen in the long term?
My priorities still remain the same. What has happened due to this financial shift? Let me tell you globally what has happened to WHO. We are short of 35% of our budget, despite, so we have a deficit of almost $1.5 billion. Even after cutting our budget by 14%, now we remain at 4.27 billion. Now, once you have this, what we have decided to do, apart from the matching and mapping, we are restructuring. You know, at the headquarters, 25% of the staff have lost their jobs. We have cut down on the directors by 50% almost. So what we are doing now, let me be more specific about Afro, where it's our region. We are revisiting our priorities. And as you know, Blessed, we are 47 member states. Seychelles has got 200,000 population. You go to Nigeria, it's over 200 million. So what Afro is going to do now, we come to Ghana, what are your priorities, your national priorities? Then we take the regional ones, we tie them, and the global ones. But the first priority has to be the countries. I repeat, the priorities of Seychelles cannot be the same of Gambia. The priorities of Gambia cannot be the same of Malawi. So we are going to tailor ourselves with the priorities of the nations and then fit in as a WHO Afro.
There are growing concerns, obviously, about this funding cuts that you're talking about. In recent times, it's been about the United States government, for instance, taking its stance on WHO. I quite was underestimating the situation because I was looking at the national figures. 78.2 million was that gap that was created nationally for Ghana, for instance, which the president directed that, you know, some steps to be taken to plug that loophole. But you are giving us a wider picture, which means that the effects are far-reaching. How much of a daunting task is it for you now at the World Health Organization to try and shore up this funding, given the recent changes on the landscape?
One thing, Blessed, I have to say, I've seen the moves which Ghana has taken from the Malama approach, the national health insurance approach, raising our budget. That's excellent, but with the development financing shift, we must reimagine the external funding, not as a replacement. To me, but it's a catalytic complement to the sovereignty investment. So how should we approach? I'll talk on WHO Afro perspective. One, as Afro, we are going to embed ourselves in the ministries so that we are there on the real time. We are really going to encourage on local manufacturing. Blessed, I'll tell you, I'm not sure if you're aware, during COVID, Africa got only 3% of the vaccines.
Really?
Yeah, because Africa manufactures less than 1% of the vaccines. So which countries fared better during COVID? The countries which had a very resilient primary health care system. Because, Blessed, is this way, outbreaks start at the community and they end up at the community. So if we build our primary health care, make sure all the essential basic things are achieved at that level of community, is a sound investment. It pays back. You catch the diseases at a very early stage. Let me shift for you to understand better. If I go to the community there and advocate, you need to exercise, you need to cut on sugars, you need to avoid tobacco, you need to avoid alcohol, I'm going to prevent somebody to get diabetes. If I allow that person to live in that lifestyle, one day you are going to end up needing somebody to do a bypass surgery, kidney failure, you need replacement, which is more expensive. Now, let's look on Ghana, because we're here. The maternal mortality rate is still pretty high. It's above 200 by 100,000 live births. But if we increase our communication between our own countries, Tanzania took its maternal mortality rate just 3 years ago from 556 to 104. So can we, this cross-country information, what did Tanzania do to achieve that? Because the goal by 2030, we wish all our countries to reach 70, and to me, why not 0? Pregnancy is not a disease, Blessed. It's a normal physiology. So really at Afro we are encouraging, we are having a summit, regional committee meeting in Lusaka end of this year, end of this month. These are the information we want to share to the member states. We want to increase communication between countries. Ghana should know what Nigeria is doing. Nigeria should know what Chad is doing, so that we can do that south-to-south cooperation. So I look at it that way. When we look on the donors, we should just not be consumers of their solutions. It's about who comes up with an idea, who will pay for that idea, and who owns that idea. Because we have our needs. Most of the donors, if you look back, they come with these vertical programs. But we should ask ourselves, are all vertical programs okay? Because what has happened end of January?
That's a crucial question to ponder over. And that's largely situated within the kind of moves and approach that we're seeing from the national and continental level. Ghana, for instance, is leading the Sustain initiative, and I believe that should be a homegrown approach towards dealing or tackling the challenge that you're talking about. If that's the case, where do you situate the Sustain initiative within the priorities of the WHO, and how do you intend to leverage on that, looking through the prism of the African Health Sovereignty Summits that we're in now?
If I got it correctly, Ghana is a great example of what it's doing, because it's doing by walking the talk, by expanding its budget, strengthening its national insurance, improving immunization coverage. And this is what I discussed with the old Minister of Health yesterday, Andrew, is that this time around, WHO Afro wants to assist so that this thing becomes a good example for the continent. Blessed is a truth. Wishful, I don't want it to be another declaration. We have a Lusaka agenda, we had Abuja declaration, and now we are having the Accra Compact. It's for the countries, the member states, to honor such thing. So I believe strongly, if we can succeed in Ghana, it's quite feasible to roll it out. And definitely, I should be caught right. The donations with our partners, they were life-saving. We just need to approach it differently. Accountability is a mutual thing, is for both sides. So I believe the way Ghana is going, especially with the Accra and now the Sustain initiative, which includes the agro part, health agro part, I can see light end of the tunnel.
Let's explore this, because we can't talk about the WHO without looking at what's happening in terms of health issues across the continent. So probably you might want to touch on that. NCDs accounting for instance, 37% of deaths across the continent is becoming a silent killer, if you want to call it as such. I recall the World Health Organization carrying out a number of initiatives here in Accra targeted at driving that awareness. Are you aware of these issues, and do you feel that the momentum is enough towards changing lifestyle and having more people warm up to this whole initiative?
Bless is not something which I'm aware. I'm aware and concerned. It's unfortunately Africa we are caught up where we are still struggling with communicable diseases, HIV, TB, the diarrhea diseases. Non-communicable diseases have set in. And here we are talking of mental health, which should not be forgotten. We are talking of cancers, we are talking of heart diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes.
And of course, be sure to watch more of that interaction with Professor Janabi here on the JoyNews channel. There's more on myjoyonline.com for you, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. Be sure to watch more of that later on this channel. That's all time will allow us here on Connect Africa. I'm Blessed. I will see you again. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.